Okay, our final writer this evening is Hillary Kobernick. Hillary writes poems for both performance and page. She has competed at the National Poetry Slam 6 times, representing Atlanta and Chicago. I'm not sure how that works, but she holds a Master's of Divinity and currently pastors in the suburbs of Chicago. Her poems have appeared on Button Poetry and in literary magazines in the U.S. and Canada, including Decomp, Bellevue Literary Review, Barely South, and Freeze Ray. As I mentioned earlier in the opening, she hosts the Spilled Milk Open Mic at the Corner House Coffee Shop in Lombard, and she's also the Slam Master of Chicago's Mental Graffiti Poetry Slam. Hillary, where are you? Come on up.
About my life. So we come to hard truths about ourselves in different ways. This girl has very nice eyes, always knows the time of day, only polites politely, doesn't know anything about campaign finance reform. Would love to learn, would love to listen to your podcast, would love to convince her company to sponsor your podcast. Likes you for you, likes your hair, likes the way it matches your dog's hair, likes getting up early in the morning to walk your dog while you sleep in, likes listening to the playlist you made her while she walks your dog while you sleep in, wants to go to therapy with you, wants to overfunction, wants to wake up early and paint her nails, wants to go hiking later, if you want to, wants to know what you want to do today, can do what she wants tomorrow. She wants to be alone, forgets she likes being alone, always carries lipstick, shares it, shares everything, is uncomfortable owning things that belong only to her, believes in socialism, donates her body to politics, doesn't want to be rude, only polites politely, loves yelling quietly, always carries deodorant, shares it, sets her ex up with acquaintances, shares well, wants the best for you, has always wanted the best for you, wants you to eat first, wants you to eat out of her hands. Her hands don't make eating motions very well. Better at washing dishes. Just born this way, just taught so much how to love, it comes naturally, just loves everything. Hates things too. Hates catcalls, walks by men anyway, hates the bows that come on lingerie, wears it anyway, hates when you buy her lingerie, wears it anyway, hates emotionally distant men, loves them anyway, forgets what she hates, wants to love, has pockets full of love, forgets they're too small, forgets they're made that way on purpose, forgets it's a fashion. When love falls out of your pockets, pretends you gave it to her. Wants to give you a massage, wants you to give her one too, will forget if you don't, doesn't keep score, doesn't know when she's losing, mistakes losing for love, loves harder, loves loving, we the perfect girls, all allegiance to the hands we feed, love feeding, love erasers, can't imagine not loving, forgets love brought us here to this place, this terrible place. So I'm going to do something fantastically unprofessional and read a poem off of my phone because I hate buying printer cartridges, and I have not for the last 2 years. I think it's always a lot of fun when I'm reading to read read new work that's in progress. So I'm going to do this poem, which I wrote a couple of weeks ago after discovering, if any of you have been to Glen Ellen, in perhaps the most boring part of Glen Ellen on Roosevelt Road. there happens to be these like 5-6 pear trees that are just up for grabs. No one picks them, so they are right outside of a security firm, though. So, you know. Since I have been standing here cutting these 39 pears, I noticed there are 5 unique ways a pear rots. It took until the 19th pear to create the right taxonomy, since one pear can have every kind of rot the way one heart can have many kinds of break. So, my pencil was over there lying down, but with this knife in my hand, I made a list of ways to rot. The first is benign. A small brown spot that will always be small and brown and easy to avoid, the way loving a person who lives 6 states away is small and easy to avoid, as long as you both stay exactly where you are. The second, the root, a hard spot that has always been hard, will always be hard, an undigestible birthmark. It swallows the knife like a tree trunk and you have to massage it out. Yesterday, a boy tried to kiss me and I rotted. Behind the gate of my apartment, I ran my fingers over my center and knew I hadn't rotted, only found a spot that had always been hard, will always be hard. The third is the malignant, an aggressive bruise that will crawl across a perfectly ordinary pear in an afternoon, eroding it from the outside in, causing your hand to swerve as if the knife were hydroplaning. The reason I have all these pears is because I foraged them. Or, that's what I tell people, because it sounds like I live in Seattle, and I did before it and I were cool, and now we can safely say that one of us is still cool. Sometimes we still sleep together, and when the city holds me, I can tell most nights she's holding someone else tighter. And she knows I hold her like I find someone to fill the bed, but I don't actually remember how to, love. So, the fourth is the erotic. This rot grows from the inside out like a love that began to decay in your lover's mouth months ago, and you don't notice until the knife is drawing the final slice, that where you expected flesh firm enough to resist your touch, there is just mush. And you realize you have become the type of person who speaks of the places you have lived as lovers. Or maybe you have always been that type of person, which is why you count the number of true loves on 1/2 of a hand and the number of places you have lived on 4. The truth, I picked the pears off the ground on a strip mall home security firm with bad landscaping. And since they wouldn't allow me to climb the trees, I walked on the asphalt and collected anything that wasn't already claimed by a bee or a bite mark. And because I was craving or greedy, I even picked up the ones that had tiny lesions on their skin, but I washed them very well and baked them into a pie and gave it to my friends, which I guess is a lie by omission, which I guess is what I do with all of my friendships, that is, serve them gorgeous pies made of breaking things. Sometimes, I think I will never fall in love again. It's not a worry, just a thought. The fifth is not actually a rot, but the fear of it. You just pick up the pear thinking of all of the ways that it could damage your knife and walk away. You guys are lovely. Let's see, so I do host an open mic in Lombard every 4th Saturday, so if you are interested in wandering over there in between these lovely events, I can give you more details.
Time?
Oh, the time? The sign-up sheet goes out at 6:30. It starts at 7 and it ends at 9 o'clock. We bring in a featured poet. Usually that's a slam poet from in Chicago. Sometimes it's from out of state. Sometimes it's a musical feature. And so it's all sorts of things. It's music, it's comedy, it's poetry, whatever. So everyone is welcome to that. This last poem, I always like to close out with this poem because I think I certainly, as a writer and as a person, get caught up inside my own head a lot. And this is one of the few poems that really truly gets me outside of my own head. Did anyone ever want to be a ballerina when you grew up? No. Yeah. Okay. Like, that question never fails me. Come on. Did anyone ever want to be an astronaut? Yeah. So I wanted to be the first ever Olympic gold medal figure skater who was also the president of the United States. And what are we now? NASA is broke. No one goes to the ballet. My ankles are too weak for ice skates, and my scumbag not smooth enough for politics. All those years, teachers told us we could be anything we wanted to be, and we are this. Washed up grown-ups standing in line for American Idol tryouts. Bloggers with our own YouTube channels grasping at the hope of viral like it's an Oscar because quantity is the greatest measure of self-worth. We define ourselves by the number of people who watch the pages of our stories unfold. We never ask if the plots matter. Stop wondering who is reading your story. The world does not need more heroes. The world needs more acts of small kindness with no expectation of heroism. The truth is, you can't be anything you want to be. You can only be yourself in all the limits and glory of your own failing, but you can be yourself very, very well. Have you ever tried? Fame is freakish. Most of us will live simpler lives. We will celebrate marriage or sobriety or being 21 and not pregnant. And aren't these things as beautiful as the 3-point sunk at the buzzer? Aren't these simplicities as necessary in our lives? So what would you do if you knew no one would remember you? But you will be remembered by the bank teller and the barista and your mother. So what would you do to be famous in your sister's eyes or your lover's? Anonymity isn't settling. It's the art of loving what you already have. So goodbye, astronaut, ballerina, Olympic figure skating president. You were never built to be that hero in the world. Never needed that hero. There's so much more important than fame.